Well, it may be the summer break, but everything is kicking off in Formula One. It's actually happened. The dreaded thing for me to see Pierre Gasly kicked out of a Red Bull car. It's happened, and it wouldn't even be for the driver we maybe thought it was going to be for. Alexander Albon is going to be in the Red Bull alongside Max Verstappen at the Belgian Grand Prix for the remainder of the 2019 season. Even after Kvyat had a third place, a podium for Toro Rosso, their second only ever podium in Formula One, has been pretty damn decent on his return to Toro Rosso. Albon being his debut season, he has been the one promoted to Red Bull, and Gasly has been demoted back to Toro Rosso. I can't believe it's actually happened. You know, we speculated about this in the podcast many times. We debated, about Kvyat going up there, being the one to step up. And in the end, it's been the Thai Brit driver Albon that goes up there. But I'm in two minds here. It's crazy for Albon. It really is. It's his debut season, remember. He's been such a lovely guy to watch on camera. In interviews, he seems so genuine, so I really hope he can handle the pressure, basically. I can't imagine what the pressure is. He's been promoted faster to the Red Bull than Verstappen did, remember. Verstappen did a whole season in Toro Rosso, then got promoted the next season in that whole Kvyat crash debacle, then the Spanish Grand Prix win. So Albon's done that faster than Verstappen, and obviously I rate Albon. He's a good driver. There's no doubt about that. He's been driving very consistently in the Toro Rosso as of late. Actually, if you actually minus the podium that Kvyat got at Germany, which was, to be fair, off amazing strategy, less so his actual driving, just great strategy work and then holding it through, Albon has been driving very consistently in that Toro Rosso car. But that is a lot of pressure to handle. It's your rookie season, and halfway through it, you're now in the big boy team. You're expected to go up against a man who is seemingly the only man to maybe take the fight to Lewis Hamilton for a world championship fight this season. The man who's been on absolute fire and form so far in the last 4 races, winning races, being right up there, taking the fight to Merck, and you're expected to try and, go up against him. Obviously, the yardstick is a little bit lower because obviously all Albon actually technically has to do for the rest of the season is do a better job than Pierre Gasly, which is not going to be that difficult, I would think, actually, if Albon can actually, handle that Red Bull. That's a big caveat and question mark for me, is how Albon now takes that Red Bull car, because Gasly has said he hasn't got on top of the Red Bull car, and has said before at the start of the season, he felt like the Toro Rosso of last year suited his driving style more. There's no doubt about it that a Red Bull car is definitely more geared towards Verstappen's driving. There's no shadow of doubt in my mind, because as soon as probably they found out Ricciardo was going to leave Red Bull, definitely everything just kind of crowded around Verstappen in terms of, right, Max, how do you want the car to drive? What do you need? Verstappen, obviously we know, very aggressive driver, punchy driver, so probably doesn't suit Pierre's kind of more, I don't know, I would say delicate driving. I would say, yeah, just more subtle driving style, I think. In the past, you've seen in feeder series as well, that was always the criticism of Gasly sometimes from Helmut Marko and higher ups in Red Bull of why he wouldn't be ready for Formula One outright, was because he was a little bit too kind, maybe, in terms of the way he'd be driving sometimes. He wasn't as punchy as they needed him to be for the kind of driver they wanted, and it's kind of carried forward in a way. As you can see now, he's never felt comfortable in the Red Bull car. He's had a few glimpses here and there, maybe, tiny little blips, but really hasn't done enough. And as Christian Horner said, harsh words at the end of the Hungarian Grand Prix, Gasly he wasn't where Red Bull needed him to be. In a situation like Hungary, Gasly being there right up there with Verstappen would have been, amazing for them, because then you would have had that situation where Verstappen tried to do that long one-stop. If you had Gasly there in P2, just somewhat matching him, even, 3/10 off him every lap, you would have had some sort of hurdle and buffer to kind of stop Hamilton maybe coming through in that 2-stop. But alas, where was Gasly? He was fighting the likes of the McLaren and Alfa Romeo cars down in the best of the rest fight, basically. And if you look at his points gap, he basically may as well be in the midfield fight, not even counted in the top 3 car fight. So it just wasn't good enough. You guys know, I've said it many times in the podcast before, though, and over the course of the last year or so, ever since he came into Formula One, I do have a soft spot for Pierre Gasly. I really wanted him to do well in F1 and do well in the Red Bull car, but it's the harsh reality. He hasn't done well enough. But saying that, I feel like his past performances as an F1 driver in Toro Rosso last season, I think, warranted him staying at least for the remainder of the season. I really do. He got 4th place in a Toro Rosso car. Albeit that was a very strange race for Toro Rosso at Bahrain GP last year. He still did the job and did a great qualifying, what was it, P6 I think on the Saturday, and then P4 in that Toro Rosso car. Had a very solid season at Toro Rosso, and so I just felt like that entire season, that result alone as well, kind of just meant that I think he should have just at least been given the courtesy to see out this season with Red Bull. But of course, we know how harsh Red Bull are. They want to assess their options of, like they say in their press release, literally, they want to assess their options for who's going to drive alongside Max in 2020. And, you know, obviously they've done it before. We saw that Kvyat Verstappen swap. So it's no big shock in that kind of way. It is just a shock in terms of I really did think they were going to give Gasly the time at least at the end of the season. And the fact that, in my opinion, if they were going to swap anyone, I thought they would have put Kvyat back in Red Bull because obviously he's the more experienced driver. But you've got two halves. You've got one, Albon has done a pretty decent job, to be fair to him. And also two, it's more of a fact probably that Helmut Marko is too damn proud of himself. And he's not going to go back on what he's done, basically. I don't think he'll ever promote Kvyat back to Red Bull. And that's why we talked about it in the podcast about, honestly, I think Kvyat needs to jump ship from Toro Rosso at the end of this season and go to another midfield team, because I don't think he's going to ever get back in the Red Bull car. Marco's got way too much pride to go back on, you know, basically embarrassing Kvyat in a way of demoting him to Toro Rosso, Verstappen coming up, and then obviously ending his career essentially because he then got dropped from Toro Rosso. He sat out a year in F1. He was a Ferrari simulator driver for a year, came back, tail between his feet, I guess, and, you know, open arms basically, trying to reset his second career, he said in interviews. But I think Marco's way too proud to ever let Kvyat go back up there. So for Kvyat's sake, I'm saying to him, just leave, mate. Just leave it in the season. Go to another midfield team. You're a very, very solid driver. You always were. And, you know, you've proven it this season, especially with that third place at Germany. Just go to a different team and try and blossom for your second career. But yeah, it's Albon in the Red Bull car. Absolutely shocking news. What I want to know what you guys are thinking of this, because there's been obviously on Twitter the news got broken. I've already tweeted a little bit about it, and you guys are flooding me with tweets about what you think about the whole situation, about, you know, either Kvyat going up there, Albon going up there, Gasly, you know, what you feeling for him. So let me know in the comments below about all of that. And now this makes the rest of the 2019 season very interesting at watching the Red Bull drivers, because you've got a lot of stories here. Obviously you've got Verstappen alone in Red Bull doing his thing, trying to challenge the Mercedes guys. But now you've got Albon in the Red Bull. How is he going to cope against Verstappen? How is he going to cope with the Red Bull car itself? And that will be a real indication, actually, of what the situation's really like. If Albon can perform in the Red Bull, then no doubt about it. Then Gasly, you were struggling way too much. You couldn't adapt. But if Albon also doesn't make the step up and doesn't, you know, I don't even know what he's meant to do. He's not going to be likely match Verstappen. Like, Verstappen is on a different level. I know Albon's a decent driver, but I just don't see him ever matching Verstappen. So what kind of yardstick is Red Bull going to measure Albon on? Like, you know, Gasly was maybe, 6/10 off Verstappen consistently. So if Albon's 4/10 off, 3/10 off, is that going to be good enough? I just don't see there being a concrete enough yardstick for them to measure it. But of course, that's what they've got to do to assess it for 2020. But you've got that whole story. Then you've got, how does Gasly cope back in Toro Rosso? I really hope he lands on his feet and can dust himself off and do well for the rest of the season in that Toro Rosso. And that's the caveat of, he said, like I said, he said the Toro Rosso suited his driving style a bit more last season. So does he go back to Toro Rosso and actually things just click for him once again? It's like having the old Pierre Gasly back again. Will he start beating Kvyat consistently? Will he actually be able to get in those situations where awkwardly he was in previously, where the Toro Rossos were creeping up on Gasly in the Red Bull car? Will Gasly now creep up on Albon in the Toro Rosso car? That would be quite hilarious and quite awkward, actually. But that's a possibility. You never know if he can settle down to that Toro Rosso car. And that Toro Rosso has been making strides as well as of late in terms of development and how consistent that car has been for both Albon and Kvyat so far in the run-up to the summer break. So that'll be another question to answer. But just to put into context how crazy this situation is, this is a tweet from Luke Smith from Crash.net. This means a driver once dropped by the Red Bull's junior program replaces a driver dropped by Red Bull, who himself becomes teammates with a driver dropped by Red Bull's team and program before being re-signed by Red Bull's program. What? Absolutely correct. Because you got to remember, Albon's career was actually dead before. 18 months ago, his career died. Like, Red Bull dropped him, essentially, and we're like, nah, we're not going to have you. And Albon was ready to take up a driving, I can't even remember what it was. Was it a driving Formula E or something like that? I think it was a driving Formula E. I think Albon was ready to take that step up, and then he dropped that all because Toro Rosso came knocking and said, you know what, come drive for us. So it's just mad how it's all worked out in terms of, like, Gasly also had that, year out of Super Formula and then came in. This just kind of almost shows in a way that Red Bull's driver program in itself as well is wearing very, very thin. You've got two of their main drivers now who are now swapping positions. Both of them were in situations where they had to sit out seasons and almost on the teetering edge of not making to F1, and now in F1 simply because Red Bull ran out of drivers to actually get from their talent pool. So it's all a bit messy in a way like that. But it's going to make things very intriguing for the Belgium Grand Prix. But yeah, obviously I went to the Hungarian GP and saw that in person. So that might have been the last time Gasly's in a Red Bull. You never know. And that would be pretty weird for me to say that I've seen Gasly in person for the last time in a Red Bull car. Obviously, I've had a lot of history of watching Red Bull, having Red Bull and Gasly affiliated in my mind with my driver and stuff like that. So that's why I do have a soft spot for him. And I do hope he can land back on his feet and jump back up. But it's all a bit mad. Like I said, let me know what you guys thought in the comments below. If you're new around here, do subscribe for weekly F1 content. And that is a bit of a bombshell, bit of news in the summer break to keep us on our toes. Till next time, guys. Hope you enjoy the rest of the day. Goodbye.